All right, Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shah, Bahasham Rahakodash, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders, a great millstone, peace and blessings to the whole elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, wherever you may be, wherever you may be. Shalom, Yeshua, Shalom. All right, getting to a few articles here. I'm trying to be brief because, I got things in there cooking. So I'm trying to keep my eye on that, but I'm getting to a couple of these articles here. So it says New York Supreme Court reinstates all government employees fired for refusing the woo-woo. I want to say we read an article like this before. Probably not going to get into this one too deeply, because if you saw that post, what they just hit me with on my, I think is video I did this morning. Had to be this morning. So it says, in a long-awaited ruling, the New York State Supreme Court is reinstating all public employees in New York City who were fired from their job for not getting woo-wooed against the woo-woo. All right. It says, since the court determined that being Vicky does not prevent an individual from contracting or transmitting the woo-woo. The reinstated employees will also receive back pay for all that time lost. And I find a funny thing, man. This is one thing that seems to not go away. All right, this thing here. All right, because a lot of different illnesses or diseases, they may come, they may go, but like the I will say the Curious George. All right, what happened to that? Okay, they stopped talking about that. Some other things that were going on, I don't even remember now because they stopped talking about it. But this right here is ongoing. It says a few months before all this, NYC Mayor Eric Adams proclaimed that his administration would not be rehiring any of the roughly 1,700 employees who were canned over their statuses. It says we're here to say that we support the revocation of those woo-woo mandate that the mayor announced on Thursday. McCarthy said, we think it should be extended as well. We support the revocation of the mandate for the athletes and performers that work in New York City. We think that the people that work for New York City should also have the mandate relocated for them. Just trying to hit some little points here. Like I said, I don't want to get too deep into this one. Nobody should be forced to get jabbed. Yeah. The internet eruption and celebration follow the news with me. So, all right, yeah. So, let's read this. It says the Fed should follow suit on this as well. It says another person expressed hope that perhaps this will also end up spilling over into the issue of woo-woo injuries, as governments recognize that people who are woo-wooed need help to overcome their health problems. The Fed should follow suit on this as well. Our military has been decimated with the Biden decision to try and force our soldiers into this position. These are the most fit people in this country who are risking their lives for our protection. The administration is well aware that woo-woo shot does not prevent anyone from contracting it, as many in the administration have caught it on more than one occasion. Probably shouldn't have read that, but I guess I read it now. So let's go on to the top. It says New York Supreme Court reinstates all government employees fired for refusing the woo-woo, right? So let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this was a talk here. It says Biden-Harris administration launches gun control effort aimed at 3D printed firearms and machine gun conversion devices. Now, if I remember correctly, one of the first things that Biden did when he came into office is he attacked assault, rifles. Okay, and he stemmed that from I believe it was a crime done with a handgun. So what does a handgun have to do with assault rifle, vice versa? But that just goes to show you it was all behind an agenda. And this is, I'm guessing, one of those 3D printed guns here. You got all kinds of stuff, but who created the technology? Esau, okay? And then it gets out of hand, then he's got to so-called correct it, right? Let's see what they got down here. One of the orders seeks to set up an emerging firearms threat task force that will be in charge of assessing the threat posed by machine gun conversion devices and unserialized 3D printed firearms. It will be made up of leadership from different federal agencies and departments. It also calls for authorities to assess the legal and operational capacities of federal agencies to detect and seize both unserialized 3D printed firearms and machine gun conversion devices. They must issue a report on this matter within 90 days. Yeah, because, given what's going on right now in the world, or more so in America, Um, these are almost no different than ghost guns or unregistered weapons or whatever the case may be. All right, so they want to get these off. They want to get the regular guns off the street. So what more a 3D printed gun or one that's been extremely modified or whatever the case may be. It says 3D printed firearms can be built using code downloaded from the internet, which makes them highly accessible. There you go, right there, ghost guns. All right. So I mean, well, I guess yeah, that is the same thing though, because I said ghost guns, but 3D printed guns. But you get my point though. So it says their lack of serial numbers is particularly concerning of the administration because it makes them impossible to trace, while the fact that they can be made using materials other than metals means they can't be detected by the metal detectors used in courthouses, airports, and for securing major events. Biden said in his announcement that the guns can be 3D printed for under 40 cents in the span of half an hour. Yeah, that's a threat to them. Too many guns that can go under the radar for a time period like we're moving into. All right, I'm talking about chaos and civil war and stuff like that going on in Babylon the Great. So we gotta start paying more attention to these types of weapons. And they showed you that gun. It was a plastic gun. What is that? I can't remember the name of the movie. I want to say the dude's name was John Malkovich, something like that. But he had the gun, plastic gun that he was carrying around. Okay, so yeah. It says it is also focusing on Glock switches or pieces of plastic or metal that can make Glock pistols fire fully automatic rather than semi-auto by placing force on the trigger bar. Now, we know Jake and Hood ain't the only ones that got this, but who the ones always bragging about it? Get the strap, get the switch, get the stick, right? He got the switch on it. You hear Jake talking about it more than anything, or anyone, I should say. All right? I'm pretty sure they're not the only ones with it, okay? Because I knew some couple military guys who, you know, I gotta say no more. You can finish the sentence, all right? Doing things, because they learn things. All right, so um, it says this, by the way, is already illegal, of course. So some observers believe this is just an attempt to appeal to voters. White House officials say that the law enforcement officials are increasingly seeing them at crime scenes due to how easy and cheap they are. The other order is aimed at evaluating research on carrying out effective and age-appropriate active shooter drills in schools that will not leave students traumatized. And those have been quite a few of those. It says it tasks authorities with exploring different types of drills, determining an appropriate frequency for carrying them out, and researching the effects they have on both students and educators. Most states require their schools to carry out such drills, despite the fact that some research has shown that they are not only ineffective, but can also be traumatic for students. Second Amendment rights are at stake. Yeah, see, I mentioned this right. The executive director of NRAILA, Randy Kozak, said that all this is just another attempt by the administration to deflect attention from their soft on crime policies that have emboldened criminals in our history. He noted the orders are notably heavy on election year rhetoric and light on substance. It's no secret that Americans don't feel safe under the Biden-Harris administration, as evidenced by the record number of firearms being purchased for the defense of self and family, and more so now than ever, especially in America. It says it is worth noting that the executive orders are not law. We talk about these executive orders all the time, right? Okay, executive orders are not law, and Trump could reverse them if he takes office, in keeping with his promise to continue to protect Americans' Second Amendment rights. However, should Harris win the election, she has already announced her intention to further limit the rights of gun owners. And this is an ongoing thing. All right, you hear one thing, about Trump, and then you hear something about Kamala, and it goes to show you that neither side have truly good intentions. They just, as we always mention, two wings, okay, of the same bird. They have different goals set up for their particular parties to get to the same, or sorry, different agendas set up given their political party to get to the same goal, which is that of whatever the banking families are planning, man, ultimately. All right, so it says here Biden-Harris administration launches gun control effort aimed at 3D printed firearms and machine gun conversion devices. All right, let's move on. All right, so this next one says Russia rolling out blockchain payments and BRICS to move away from dollar. I believe we talked about this recently in a different article, because we talked about the BRICS pay thing and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think it mentioned the blockchain, but we did mention blockchain. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what is going on in here. How long is this? All right, not long at all. So it says Russia is making another push. Oh, wait, that's good. Okay, no, this is good, good, good. All right, to push its fellow BRICS nations to move away from the U.S. dollar, which is called de-dollarization. BRICS is rapidly growing, expanding from the original nations that help form its name of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa to encompass 10 countries. Excuse me, adding Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates to its roster. Numerous others are hoping to make their way through the approval process soon, which was just talked about in their BRICS summit, which I'm not sure if I haven't checked. It may still be ongoing, but yeah, the BRICS, that most recent BRICS summit that was talked about, right, with the addition of adding on new countries. Now, not saying that they solidified it, but the talks were going to come up, and whoever was going to be pushed through was going to be talked about real soon, and then it's going to be left into the hand of, I think they said, the Indians to bring all that information out. All right, so we'll see. It says, however, despite its growth, it hasn't really accomplished much. And at this year's summit in Kazan on the Volga River, Russian President Vladimir Putin is hoping to convince members to create a new global financial payment system that will threaten the U.S.'s current global finance dominance while protecting members from sanctions. It says this is something that they say will enable economic operations without being dependent on those that decided to weaponize the dollar and the euro. So it says, known as the BRICS Bridge. The idea is to build it up within a year and give countries the ability to carry out cross-border payments with digital platforms. Hold on. Light it up. I was looking for what I wanted. Okay. Yeah, right there. Okay. Actually, we could have got some more than that because we can really get all this. All right. So, as a matter of fact, bear with me a second. Okay, so it says known as BRICS Bridge. The idea is to build up within a year and give countries the ability to carry out cross-border payments with digital platforms that their respective central banks run. This is what we talked about the other day. Using their own currency from their own country and having this whole system that they're setting up to utilize their own currency and still be able to trade with another one of those countries, member countries or whatever, even though their currency is different, and just having it transition. We use the example like when you take American dollars to Mexico, you got to get them transferred over to pesos or anything like that. Same difference. They're going to use their own currency. They trade within themselves, and they never have to, basically the point is to stop using the dollar. But I guess to come to a proper agreement, they found a way that they can still use all of their own currencies and still trade one with another and still have the trade off being the same without the American dollar. That's the key thing. So it says, with the potential for quicker and more affordable transactions, emerging economies could be tempted away from carrying out business in U.S. dollars, and Western officials are already worried about its ability to help I'm pretty sure it's supposed to help countries get around sanctions. And that's why the BRICS was formulated. All those freaking sanctions and things of that nature, what they kept doing against these other countries. They were like, you know what? To hell with America. We all have the same common enemy here. Okay. So let's get together and let's try to push and pull away from the American dollar. And that's what they've been doing for a long time. And they're starting to pull it out. Starting to roll this out. Starting with that BRICS payment card. Okay. It's a test run for their system and their digital currency. All right. Their central bank digital currencies or whatever. Everything is a test run everywhere. And it's all going to hit Babylon the Great all at once. Because there's many things being tested in other countries right now. And it's all going to come to Babylon all at once. It says, put simply, this initiative would use digital money that is backed by fiat currencies, which would mean that central banks are at the center of cross-border transactions. As a result, no single country will be able to cut off another one, you see? And the need for correspondent banks that use the dollar clearing system would be eliminated. Relying on blockchain, digital currencies, and tokens, it has been promoted in Russia as a good alternative to the secure messaging system that handles trillions of dollars each year in global bank payments. And if you don't understand the blockchain, you gotta just go and research it yourself, and you'll see why people use it. It's a really simple system, but whatever. So it says, Putin said, "We are not rejecting or fighting the dollar." So you say, but if we are not given the chance to use it, what can we do? We are then forced to look for alternatives, which it makes sense. What we just mentioned, all those sanctions and other things, these restrictions and all this nonsense. So they were like, you know what? Let's find an alternative. And then up came the BRICS nations, which began with Brazil, Russia, India, and China, eventually added on South Africa, and they became the core. And so the plus are other members, so you get that. Um, After Russia invaded Ukraine, they found itself on the receiving end of numerous financial sanctions, and it's something that other BRICS members, especially China, are worried about. An alternative system like this one would be highly appealing to the bloc, but experts believe that it could be challenging to get all members to agree on some of the finer points of such a system. In fact, some are interpreting the fact that the finance ministers of several prominent BRICS nations, including India, South Africa, and China, skipped a meeting of BRICS finance ministers earlier this month as a sign that there may not be as much interest in those proposals as Putin hopes. All right, proposal is being taken seriously outside BRICS. However, the proposal by Russia is something that the central bank officials at World Bank and IMF, who recently met in Washington, D.C., are taking very seriously, worrying about the global payment system becoming fragmented in the future as a result of geopolitical tensions. One senior Western central bank official said, "You already see Russia and China looking for ways to do more payments between each other that completely avoid the dollar, so we need to speed up the work we are doing to improve cross-border payments. Since the war with Ukraine began, Russia has shifted from using non-Western currencies for 20% of its transactions to around 80%. All right, so it says here Russia rolling out blockchain payments in BRICS to move away from dollar. All right, let's move on. All right, so this one is just a quick mention. I'm not going to really read into it. It says UK to send another $2.93 billion to Ukraine using stolen Russian assets. The interest payments are starting to come in from all those frozen Russian assets the European Union is holding hostage, and the United Kingdom plans to spend the interest windfall on Ukraine. According to reports, Great Britain is planning to send another $2.93 billion to the Zelensky regime, bumping the total G7 spending spree on Kyiv so far up to $50 billion. Defense Secretary John Healey said the extra billions will help Ukraine bolster its frontline military equipment, describing the cash transfer in terms of turning the proceeds of Putin's own corrupt regime against him by putting it into the hands of Ukraine. All right, Salakia. I'm not sure where we left off at. So let me see here. Entire G7 planning to fund Ukraine using profits interest accrued from Russian assets. In the coming weeks, the other G7 countries, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United States, and the EU, as a non-encumbered member, are planning to do the same thing, so Zelensky is flush with cash into the foreseeable future. It's just funny how they keep finding a way to put money over there where Zelensky is. And this dude and his troops getting their ass whipped, man. Says some of the payments will be made in I guess no different than the Israelis, but I guess they're doing a little bit better than Zelensky. Anyways, some of the payments will be made in installments rather than as one lump sum, though this latest $2.93 billion cash infusion will be paid all at once so Zelensky can start spending it immediately. Some of the nations that plan to send more cash to Ukraine are expecting it to be used to reconstruct the damaged portions of the regime, though Kyiv will have the final say on how to spend the money. How can you, I don't know. Because I was about to say, how can you, I don't know. Let's just keep going. It says, according to Healy, Ukraine will likely use some of the money to buy more critical military equipment, such as air defense and ammunition. What else is going to spend it on? Thus far, the UK has sent nearly $16 billion to Ukraine since the start of the war. It is planning to match that same amount of support in the future, meaning this is a long-term money laundering investment scheme to keep Ukraine in existence at all costs. What I just said, basically. Okay, we're just using more words. Okay, because the U.S. is constantly backing them up, and we're talking about the U.K. right now. Keep in mind for that. It says Reeves reiterated to the media that UK's support for Ukraine is unwavering and will remain for as long as it takes. I don't think we need to read any more from there. I think we only got one more to go. So it says UK to send another $2.93 billion to Ukraine using stolen Russian assets. And like I said before, they're finding a way to keep Ukraine afloat and Zelensky afloat some way, somehow. All right, last one says BRICS countries call on UN to recognize Palestine as a state. Right, BRICS countries call on UN to recognize Palestine as a state. Okay, so it says, let me see how long this one is. All right, super short. So it says, at the BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia this week, representatives of the bloc's member nations called for Palestine to be admitted to the UN as a full member with commitment to a two-state solution. In a joint statement, the leaders of BRICS pushed for an independent and viable state of Palestine under the internationally recognized borders of June 1967, with East Jerusalem as its capital, living side by side in peace and security with Israel. They also drew attention to the humanitarian crisis taking place in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank in defiance of a UN Security Council resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire. Israel continues its deadly offensive on Gaza. So far, nearly 43,000 Palestinians have been killed and more than 100,000 have been wounded, many of which are children, women, and elderly people. A further 11,000 are unaccounted for and presumed dead. The Gaza Strip is also experiencing acute famine, which is taking even more lives, especially children, while nearly 2 million people have been displaced in what is the biggest mass exodus since the Nakba in 1948. And yeah, they're stopping supplies, right? They're shooting down people who are running for supply trucks and stuff like that. Somebody needs help, they'll shoot down the person that's going to help the person. All this kind of craziness, all right? But they try to paint the Israelis as so good. You jest. We iterate our grave concern at the deterioration of the city. And we're not with either side for that more. Make sure I say that. All right. Just making a point, making a statement. It says, we reiterate our grave concern at the deterioration of the situation of humanitarian crisis in occupied Palestine territory, in particular the unprecedented escalation of violence in the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank as a result of the Israeli military offensive, which led to mass killing and injury of civilians, forced displacement, and widespread destruction of civilian infrastructure. They noted, adding that they were concerned about the unfolding situation in southern Lebanon and its associated loss of civilian lives and damage to civilian infrastructure. The president of BRICS member South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, said that the other bloc leadership welcomed his country's actions in defending Palestinians. He added that he informed them that South Africa would be submitting its complete genocide case against Israel in the next few days to the International Court of Justice. And that's actually been, I want to say, a month or two now since they first mentioned that. Anyways, the case was initially filed late. Oh, wait, I'm wrong about that. Look, this says the case was initially filed late last year on the grounds that Jewish state fell. Wow, way longer than that. Okay. The Jewish state failed to uphold its commitments under the 1948. But it shows you how quick time is flying, man. The Lord said he would speed up the time for the elect's sake, man. He was shortening the time, man. All right, so, hey, man. Says under the 1948 Genocide Convention, and public hearings will get underway in January. Spain, Mexico, Colombia, Libya, Nicaragua, and Turkey have since joined the case. And Ramaphosa said that the countries around the world have a responsibility not to fund or facilitate Israel's genocidal acts. The BRICS leaders call for an urgent ceasefire as well as the release of captives from both sides of fighting. Palestinian Authority president attempts summit and confirms intention to apply for BRICS membership. All right, so it says the Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas attended the summit after receiving a personal invitation from Russian President Vladimir Putin, and the PA confirmed they intend to apply for membership in BRICS. Abbas reportedly spoke with Putin on the sidelines of the summit about the latest developments in Palestine and their efforts to stop Israel's reign of terror in Gaza. He emphasized the need for international cooperation in terms of both providing humanitarian aid and putting an end to Israel's violence. And that's the Lord gathering everybody for the Hamagadwan, right? Another attendee was Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, whose country has formally requested to join the bloc. Reports indicate that Turkey views it as a good alternative to the European Union. The group, which was initially composed of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, expanded at the beginning of the year when Egypt, Ethiopia, UAE, and Iran joined, which are known as the BRICS Plus. All right, so that's pretty much it for that article. I'm not going to prolong it, So, That's it. BRICS countries call on UN to recognize Palestine as a state. So that's it for the various articles. Lord, will you edify to that son? That's what I'm going to say. Shalom.